What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Toxicity Blitz. Today we are going to be taking a look at another how to kill video, how to kill the IS-4. Now, I got some really good feedback on the last video. It seems that a lot of you guys really appreciated it, and you guys really requested this tank, the IS-4. Now, this is one of those really big problem heavies in the game right now. It is used in comp, it's used in pubs a lot by really good players. This is just overall a very good tank, and it features one of the best guns in the tier. This is a snapshotting god of tanks. So we're going to be telling you how to deal with this tank. So first, to start off, I'm going to talk a little bit about the turret. So the turret is pretty menacing, I will say. The turret is actually really menacing. From the front, it looks completely impenetrable. It looks very hard to pen. You can't really deal with it. When in fact, there are two strips down the side of the gun mantlet that you can see here that you can actually pen through with standard ammo if you have enough pen, such as the VK90, or if you just load gold. Most tanks, gold pen will just go straight through this area. So that is how you can pen the front of the tank. It's usually the best way to do it. If you are going to have trouble with that, you can, if you're in a tall enough tank like an E100 or a mouse, or if you get lucky and you're in an E5, or even if you're just above the tank, you can actually shoot down into the cupolas of this tank. Now, if we are looking at this tank head on, as you can see here, never shoot for the left cupola. There actually really isn't much there to hit. However, the cupola on the right side is a little bit bigger. It's got a lot more gray area, and it's got that little bubble on top, makes this area a lot easier to hit. So never shoot, if you're head on to the tank, never shoot for the left cupola. Always shoot for the right side cupola. Next off, a lot of times people get really troll bounces when dealing with this tank's turret. Never shoot towards the front half of this tank's turret. Always shoot towards the back half. The front half is a lot skinnier, it's a lot more rolled, it's going to be a lot harder to pen than trying to shoot for the back half of the turret. The back half of the turret is a lot weaker. You can see here in this diagram I'm putting in, you can kind of see where the armor kind of falls off a little bit towards the back of the turret. If you are going to shoot for the front half of the turret, like if that's all you can see and that's what you have to shoot for, shoot for the lower area of the turret. Shoot for the lower half and always shoot gold for that spot. Otherwise, you're going to get a really troll bounce and it's not going to be fun for you. Next up, I want to talk about a really interesting part of this tank's turret. In the back, it's obviously very pennable, but if you're in a tall tank or tank with anything above 85 millimeters of HE pen, you can actually pen the back of this tank's turret, such as the FV215B, E100, VK72, obviously the FV183. All of these can just butter the back of this tank's turret. As you can see, up here behind the cupolas on this big flat spot, it is paper thin. You can actually just completely pen through this tank's turret with HE there, and it takes this tank out very effectively if you're maybe on a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1 and you're in a big group trying to take this tank down, or maybe if you just got behind it and you're up on a ridge shooting down at it, you can pen this tank's turret quite easily. Also, since that area is up there by that cupola, if you are having a hard time aiming for those cupolas with your AP shells, HE the cupolas, you'll be doing about 200 damage every time. Very easy to HE the top of this tank. So if you can't pen it or you don't have the best accuracy, go for that. I really like to apologize real quick. I am trying to get through this video very quickly because there is a lot of stuff wrong with this tank. This tank really isn't as good as people think it is. So next up, we're going to be talking about the front plate on this tank. The front plate on this tank is actually really weak. Same with the lower plate. The lower plate can be penned, I believe, by anything standard ammo in the tier, but the front top plate is actually way weaker than people think it is. The entire front plate, if you are in a face hug, can be penned with standard ammo most of the time. If not, you can load gold. Heat, especially, butters the front plate of this tank. You will be able to go through just about anywhere. You will never have a problem penning this tank. That's where I think the big downfall of this vehicle is that you can't pen you can pen the front plate of this tank out in the open. If it's just driving towards you, you can pen it all day long, and there's nothing this guy can do about it. No amount of angling is going to save him from a gold shell. You can pen all day long. There is this little square in the middle of the front plate. This area, if you're going to shoot at it, shoot at the very, very center. Otherwise, I don't recommend shooting at this. You can see here that it slopes off to the sides, and that is red, and you can actually bounce off of those, and you won't do any damage. It won't ricochet into the plate or anything. You won't do any damage if you bounce off of this. So try to avoid that at all costs, and shoot for the big open sides to either side of this area, or shoot below it. Never try to shoot for this area. It's just a really, really bad idea. Next up, we're going to talk about these little slanting off plates. This tank is one of the best side scraping heavy tanks in the entire game. It's got very, very strong sides. It's really hard to deal with when it's an effective side scraping position. What you can actually do is load gold and go through the little sloped off areas of this tank. And because they slope off so far, you can hit the very, very corners of these areas, as you can see here. You can hit these very, very corners and do damage while the tank is side scraping. So that is a really good way to kind of negate this tank's effects while side scraping. A little bit more on side scraping, we're going to talk about the rear. The rear is shaped really weird. It's this terraced sort of idea. This area also, if this tank is reverse side scraping, trying to hide those sides, it's actually even less effective, because the way this terrace is shaped means that you can hit the very, very corners under these little fuel canisters on the back, and you can do some damage. Again, as you can see here, you can pen this all day long. Very, very easy to hit. Even if you're in a 215B, that beautiful English heavy, you can actually HE this area, and it'll make you a lot more effective. Now, a lot of people are really confused when it comes to facehugging this tank, especially if you're also in an IS-4 and you don't have the gun depression. A lot of people don't know necessarily how to deal with this tank. It is a very formidable facehugging tank because of its low profile, its very high heat pen, and its chance to do damage to you. So what you want to do is, you can see these areas on the side of the turret that are gray. This tank's engine deck is very, very paper thin. It can be penned all day long. In fact, this is my favorite spot to shoot when I'm in my own IS-4, fighting another IS-4. I'll just go face to face with them and shoot on those areas. The way, if somebody knows how to do this against you, is just kind of turn your turret over where their gun's looking, use third person for that. But if you can get your gun into this area, you can actually shoot all day long. You don't even have to shoot gold. You can shoot standard ammo, and you will be doing massive amounts of damage, and you won't have to lower your DPM by shooting heat shots. And this area actually comes up really far up around the turret, so you can actually do damage to people a lot more often than they'd expect. This area is super effective for flat terrain. I do want to say, don't try to shoot for this area if it's a slight slope. You're going to have a lot harder of a chance, but if you're on flat terrain, by all means, go for this area. It's super effective. If you're on a slope, try to shoot for those areas next to the gun mantlet that I talked about earlier, or try to back up and get a shot into that hole. In fact, these areas, while they are really easy to hit, the most effective way to take out an IS-4 is just taking that extra step back and shooting into their upper plate, and then getting back in the face hug. That is the most effective way to fight this tank, from what I've seen so far. Next up, we are going to be talking about the really special area on this tank. They're really just absolutely cheating this tank. This is probably the least known area about this tank. I don't know anybody who's known this. In fact, I've had this tank for about 6-7 months, and I didn't even know this at all. I've been in some good clans, and I don't think they've even known this. I just learned it about a few days ago, actually, and that's why I'm really keen on making this right now. This completely changes how I personally view the tank. It makes this tank a lot weaker. So right here, it looks red. I can promise you, it is absolutely not. If you can see right there, there is a gray strip just above the drive wheels that are touching the ground. Or not the drive wheels, the road wheels that are against the ground, the lowest ones in the track. Those wheels, where they contact the hull, there is a gray strip behind them. So what you can do is just shoot to the upper half of these wheels. You can kind of judge that here by looking at the little gray circles on the wheels. Look up, you can see that there's bars with a little pin attaching it to the tank. I'll circle that here. shoot into these circles here, shoot into these little areas for the suspension, shoot into the suspension. It's all great. You'll pen every time. In fact, you can pen this at just about every angle, of course, unless their track is in the way. But at any side scraping angle, you can pen this. In fact, you don't even have to shoot gold or anything to pen this in the slightest. Tier 6 tanks can pen this area. It is unbelievably weak. And I personally think that is the biggest game changer for taking out this tank. We already know this tank can't go head on because you can just shoot gold into its upper plate and avoid that little square in the middle. We already know that it can't reverse side scrape, but now we know that it really just can't side scrape in general. It can be penned over those wheels that are contacting the ground. Again, those wheels that are contacting the ground, not above it, you will bounce. Not below it, you'll hit the ground, but just in that sweet spot right there, you can pen it all day long at just about any angle. Obviously, if you think you're going to miss, don't take the shot. Just load gold, hit that upper plate. But this area is just paper thin, which I think is going to be the most effective for you. It's certainly effective for me. I noticed that I use this spot a lot now, especially those the engine deck shots. I think those are the two most effective ways to take out this tank. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you learned something new. I hope you're all in the holiday spirit. And remember to stay toxic and have a good day of tanking.